the heart of the mountains, there was a place where the stars whispered secrets. Their voices were soft, barely a breath in the stillness of night. But for those who listened closely, they held stories older than the earth itself. Elara was one of those few, a woman who had spent her life listening to the quiet hum of the universe. Her house, perched at the very edge of the world, seemed to fade into the sky itself, as if she too was part of the stars' endless dance. It was said that on some nights, the stars did more than whisper. They called. Before we begin, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and let us know where in the world you're listening from. The night was quiet, so still that even the wind held its breath. Elara sat by the window, her gaze fixed on the heavens. The sky, as vast and dark as an old storybook, stretched out endlessly before her. The stars scattered across it like scattered grains of sand. Each twinkling light seemed to pulse with life, and for a moment Elara thought she saw something new, something unfamiliar, a subtle shift in the constellations. She leaned closer, pressing her palms gently against the cool glass. Her heart beat steadily in her chest, a rhythmic sound that seemed to sync with the quiet pulse of the night. She had always been drawn to the stars, but tonight felt different. She could sense something just out of reach, something hidden behind the veil of time and space. Take a moment now to settle into the softness around you. Feel the weight of your body sinking deeper into the surface beneath you. Whether you're lying in a bed or resting on a chair, allow the comforting embrace of the earth to hold you, soft and warm. Breathe in gently, feeling the air fill your lungs, slow and calm. Then, with a soft exhale, let go of the tension, releasing it into the night. Let the world fade, just for a little while. You don't need to go anywhere or do anything. Everything can wait. The only thing that matters is this moment, this quiet time for you to rest. Notice the way your muscles soften, the small gentle rhythm of your breath. It flows like a calm river, steady, constant. With every breath, you move further into the quiet. The space around you feels larger, more expansive, like the night sky itself. Everything around you seems distant, and yet, in this peaceful place, you feel more connected to the world than ever before. Now, in this soft silence, imagine the stars above. Imagine the gentle shimmer of their light, the warmth they offer from so far away. There is no hurry in the sky. There is no rush. Just a slow dance of light and time. Elara sat in her small weathered chair, the fire at her back flickering with a soft glow. The flames cast dancing shadows on the walls, but her attention was not on the warmth behind her. Her eyes were drawn once more to the window, where the stars beckoned. She had always felt at home here, on this mountain, in this small house. It was a place where time slowed, and the world below seemed far away, out of reach. She had lived for years in this quiet solitude, studying the heavens, trying to understand their language. But tonight was different. A strange stillness filled the air, one that was almost too quiet. Even the trees seemed to hold their breath, their leaves motionless in the night wind. It was as though the entire world was waiting for something just beyond the horizon of her understanding. And then she heard it, a whisper. It was so faint at first, so soft, that she wondered if she had imagined it. But the more she listened, the clearer it became. A sound like wind, but not quite wind. A voice, distant and soft, yet unmistakable. Elara. She froze. Her heart skipped a beat, the world around her narrowing to a single point. The voice was unmistakable, familiar, yet strange. It was as if the very stars were speaking her name. Elara, the voice repeated, this time louder, clearer and filled with an urgency that sent a shiver down her spine. She stood up slowly, her legs shaky. The fire behind her crackled, but it was as though she couldn't hear it anymore. Her mind raced. She had lived her entire life in silence, listening only to the stars. But never had they spoken to her like this. Never had she heard her name on their lips. With a trembling hand, she reached out to the telescope beside her, its brass frame worn from years of use. She had looked through it countless times, tracing the constellations, studying their movements. But tonight, it felt different. The stars seemed closer, their light more intense. Taking a deep breath, she peered through the lens. At first, she saw nothing out of the ordinary. Just the familiar constellations, the familiar sweep of the Milky Way stretching across the sky. But then, in the corner of her vision, something shifted. A star, just a single one, flickered. A soft pulse, as if it were trying to catch her attention. Alara, the voice whispered again, and this time it came from the star itself. Her heart raced as she leaned closer to the telescope. Her breath caught in her chest. What was this? What did it mean? And then, as quickly as it had begun, the voice faded into the silence, leaving behind only the soft glow of the stars and the feeling that something had changed forever. But what was it? What had the stars called her for? The morning came slowly, its light soft and tentative, as if it too was unsure of what had happened the night before. Alara stood at the window, her fingers tracing the outline of the pane, her gaze distant. The stars had gone quiet again, as they always did with the first light of dawn. But the silence in her house felt different now. It was not a peaceful stillness. It was an unanswered question, lingering in the air like a riddle. She had tried to sleep, but the events of the night had kept her wide-eyed, listening for something, anything that would explain the voice. the whisper of her name on the wind, the flicker of the stars that seemed to pulse with a rhythm she had never before sensed. It was as if the universe itself had drawn her into its depths, offering a glimpse of something beyond her understanding. But it was just out of reach. Elara sighed softly, stepping away from the window, her feet silent on the old wooden floors of her home. The fire had long since burned low, the embers now little more than glowing whispers. She moved to the kitchen, her hands moving almost mechanically as she prepared a simple breakfast. Though the motions felt strange, disconnected from the world around her, her mind was still on the stars, still on the voice, still on the strange magnetic pull that had tugged at her heart in the stillness of the night. She had always known the stars were alive in their own way. They had their own language, their own pulse. But this was something more. As she sipped her tea, she found herself thinking of her telescope. The lens, the brass, the way it felt cool beneath her fingertips. She had used it for years to study the heavens, but never like this. Never had it felt as though it were alive, as though it were guiding her, leading her toward something hidden, something secret. Elara, she whispered under her breath, her voice almost catching in the air. The name felt foreign on her tongue now, as though the stars had claimed it for their own. What did they want from her? Take a moment now to settle once more into the quiet, soft place of rest. Feel the weight of your body once again, sinking deeper into the warmth of your bed. The world around you is calm now, still. The soft rhythm of your breath matching the slow passage of time. Allow the gentle weight of sleep to press lightly upon you. A soft, welcoming pressure that invites you to drift, to let go. With every inhale, feel your chest rise, soft and slow. And with every exhale, release any lingering thoughts. Like leaves carried away by a quiet breeze, there is no rush. You are safe. You are held in this moment, in this space of rest, imagine the stars far above you. Their light is gentle, almost like a lullaby, wrapping you in comfort. Each tiny spark in the sky holds a secret, a story to be told, but you do not need to understand them right now. You simply need to listen, to breathe, to rest. The day wore on and Alara found herself standing at the base of the mountain that rose above her home. She had always walked this path, her feet familiar with the uneven stones. The way the earth beneath her shifted with each step. But today, as she made her way toward the clearing where she would set up her telescope, something felt different. The wind, which had once been a gentle companion, now seemed to carry a sense of urgency, as though it too was waiting for something to happen. She paused, looking up at the sky. The stars had long since faded with the rise of the sun, but there was a stillness in the air, a weight to it that she could feel in her bones. Something was out there, something waiting. She could almost hear the stars whispering, calling her, though the voice was fainter now, as if it were buried deep within the earth. With a quiet breath, Alara set up the telescope in the clearing, her hands moving with practiced ease, though her heart beat with a quiet excitement. She had no idea what she was looking for, no idea what would unfold once she gazed through the lens. But she knew that she had to try. As the night began to fall, the first stars began to appear. Shy at first, then slowly becoming bolder, more confident. She stood there for a long time, simply watching them, waiting for the feeling to return, the feeling that had tugged at her heart the night before. Finally, she lowered her gaze to the telescope. Her fingers brushed the cold brass of the lens, and for a moment she hesitated. What if the stars were simply stars? What if the voice had been nothing more than a trick of her tired mind? But deep down, she knew better. The stars had called to her, and she would answer. With a steady breath, Alara peered through the lens once more. At first, it was just the familiar constellations, the comforting shapes she had spent years studying. But then, she noticed it. A faint flicker, not far from the bright pulse of the North Star. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A soft, rhythmic flicker, and then, just as she had seen the night before, the flicker began to move, slowly, gently, like a soft ripple across the vast ocean of the sky. Elara, the voice whispered once again, this time clearer than ever before. She leaned closer to the telescope, her breath catching in her throat. What do you want? She whispered back, but the stars only flickered, and the voice faded into the quiet of the night. The night stretched on, and with each passing moment, Elara felt the weight of the stars pressing closer. The voice had faded, but it lingered in the corners of her mind, a soft hum in the depths of her thoughts. What was it trying to tell her? What did the stars want from her? She stood there, her hands still resting lightly on the telescope, as the flicker in the sky began to grow stronger. It was no longer a gentle pulse. It was more insistent, as though the stars themselves were trying to communicate something urgent, something that could not wait. Elara's heart beat faster as she watched. The flickering light in the distance wasn't just a random star. It was moving. The light bent and swirled, as if caught in a current she couldn't see. The constellations around it shimmered, rippling like the surface of a dark lake, disturbed by the smallest breeze. She had never seen anything like it, never felt anything like it. Her breath caught in her chest as she moved closer, as if compelled by the pull of something greater than herself. There was no longer any doubt in her mind. The stars were trying to tell her something. Something had changed. Something was awakening. Elara. The voice came again, this time clearer. louder, as though it was speaking directly to her heart, its words wrapping around her, pulling her deeper into the night. The sound seemed to be coming from the very heart of the sky, a place beyond the stars, beyond everything she knew. She stepped back from the telescope, her heart racing. The cool night air seemed to pulse with energy, vibrating around her, as if the very world had been touched by the unseen force she felt in her chest. The voice, the call, it was real. It wasn't her imagination. But what was it? What did the stars want from her? Why now, after all these years? Elara's thoughts raced as she tried to make sense of it all. She had always felt connected to the stars, understood their patterns, their movements. But this was something entirely different. This was not just observation. This was communication. The stars were reaching out, and somehow they had chosen her to hear them. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted the telescope once again, focusing on the flickering light. The pulse of it was steady now, as if the star, or whatever it was breathing with a life of its own. And then, in the heart of that swirling light, she saw it, a shape, a figure, cloaked in the deep blackness of the night, moving between the stars. It was a shadow, but not a shadow that belonged to anything on earth. It was a silhouette that seemed to belong to the very fabric of the cosmos itself. Elara gasped. She had seen this figure before, not in her telescope, but in her dreams. She had seen it in the very heartbeat of the night, in the moments just before sleep, when the world around her seemed to fade and the stars felt close enough to touch. The figure in the sky, the one who seemed to watch her, waiting for her to see. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling as she gazed at the figure. The stars around it seemed to bend and twist, as if forming an intricate pattern she couldn't quite comprehend. The figure did not answer, but it did not need to. It was clear enough. It was waiting for her. The air air around her seemed to shift. The wind that had once whispered gently now howled, pulling at the trees, at the leaves, at her very being. She felt as though the entire world was shifting, changing, like the earth itself was being unmade and remade before her eyes. Elara, the voice came again, not from the stars, but from within her. It was a deep, resonant sound vibrating in her bones. She closed her eyes, feeling the voice move through her. A pulse of energy so pure, so ancient, that it seemed to touch something deep within her soul. She took a slow breath, the weight of it pressing on her chest, and opened her eyes. The figure was gone. The stars were still. The flickering light now nothing more than a distant memory. But something inside her had changed. She could feel it. The world felt different. The air felt charged with possibility, as if the universe itself was waiting for her to take the next step. Her mind raced. What had just happened? What did it all mean? She glanced once more at the dark sky, her heart heavy with the question that burned in her chest. The stars had called her, yes, but now there was a new question that rose in her mind, unbidden and urgent. What am I meant to do? For a long time, she stood there, her eyes fixed on the stars. The figure, the flickering light that had once been so clear, but now seemed to retreat into the vastness of the night. The voice, the stars, the figure, they had given her something, some kind of answer, but she didn't know what it was. Her fingers brushed the brass of the telescope once more. She had spent so many years studying the stars, trying to unlock their mysteries. But now, it was as though they had unlocked her. There was something she was meant to see, meant to understand, but she didn't know how to reach it. The figure in the stars had not spoken. It had not told her what to do, only shown her that she was part of something much larger. something beyond her comprehension. The stars had chosen her. But for what? The days that followed felt like a dream, blurred, uncertain, as though time itself had shifted subtly beyond her control. Elara could no longer shake the feeling that the world around her was not as it seemed. Every rustle of the wind, every flicker of light in the corners of her eyes, every stillness in the night seemed to carry a message, a riddle, just waiting to be solved. And yet, despite the deep pull she felt toward the stars, she couldn't understand it. What was it that they wanted from her? Why had they called her name? Why had they shown her the figure in the sky? The shadow that seemed to move with the stars themselves. She spent long hours gazing through her telescope, her eyes following the constellations she had once known so well. But now, they felt different. They seemed to shimmer with a new kind of energy, a subtle but undeniable force that hummed in the air around her, like the gentle vibrato of a string being plucked. She had spent her life trying to chart their movements, to learn their patterns. But now, the stars felt alive, restless, as if they too were waiting for something to happen. And so, she waited. Elara stood at the edge of the clearing, her back to the mountain that had always been her home. The wind was soft tonight, almost imperceptible, but there was a weight to the air that made the quiet seem more pronounced, more urgent. The stars above twinkled, their light sharp and clear against the vast black sky. But one star in particular caught her attention. It was not the brightest star, but there was something different about it. It pulsed with a steady rhythm, its light flickering in time with her heartbeat. The hair on the back of her neck rose. The voice came to her again, soft, like a whisper carried on the breeze. Elara. It was no longer a question, no longer a call to attention. It was a command, a beckoning. Her heart skipped in her chest. was no hesitation now, no fear. The answer was clear, even if the meaning was still out of reach. Without thinking, she moved toward the telescope, her hands trembling as she adjusted the lens. She gazed once more into the night, the familiar constellations stretched out before her. But her focus was on the pulsing star, the one that seemed to beckon to her. And then she saw it again. The shadow. It was faint at first, barely noticeable, but it was there, dancing between the stars. Not quite a figure, but a movement, like something trying to take form. It shifted, as though it were made of stardust itself, flowing through the sky in an intricate pattern that Elara could not begin to comprehend. She blinked, rubbing her eyes. When she looked again, the figure was gone. But the star, that star, was brighter now, its pulse more insistent, almost as if it were calling her name again. Elara. The voice was softer now, more intimate, as though the very fabric of the universe was speaking to her in a language only her heart could understand. She could feel the pull in her chest now, stronger than ever before. It wasn't just the stars, it was something deeper, something hidden in the very air around her. Her pulse quickened as she stood, rooted to the spot, her gaze fixed on the sky, her breath shallow in the cool night air. The figure appeared once more, this time closer, its form more defined. Elara felt her breath catch in her throat as it moved through the constellations. It was no longer a shadow. Now, it was something solid, something real. The figure's movements were graceful, almost fluid, as if it were part of the stars themselves, a being born from the very fabric of the cosmos. It moved toward her, a dark silhouette against the brilliance of the night. She could feel its presence in her bones, in the very marrow of her being. The stars pulsed around it, each flicker of light synchronized with its every motion. The figure, now more distinct, was reaching for her, extending a hand toward her. though it was still far away. Elara, the voice whispered again, this time clearer, more urgent. Come. It wasn't a command now, but an invitation. Elara's hand shook as she reached out, her fingers brushing the edge of the telescope. The figure in the sky seemed to pause, waiting, watching her with a quiet intensity. There was a sense of recognition, as if it knew her, as if it had been waiting for this moment for longer than she could imagine. The stars above twinkled brightly, the wind whispering through the trees around her, and for the first time she felt something more than the overwhelming wonder of the universe. She felt a connection, a deep, unspoken bond that pulled her toward the figure, toward the darkness between the stars. The pulse of the star grew stronger with each passing moment, its light now blinding, until it was all she could see, all she could feel. Elara, it is time. The voice came again, softer now, like a lullaby. It was not a voice from the stars anymore. It was her own voice, or a version of it. It was as though the universe itself had borrowed her words and wrapped them in the darkness of the sky. The figure in the stars reached out once more, its hand now close enough to touch the very fabric of her soul. And then, as though the world itself had stopped breathing, Elara stepped forward. Elara's foot moved forward slowly, almost as if in a dream. Each step felt suspended, as if the ground beneath her was no longer solid, as if the stars themselves were supporting her, lifting her from the earth and into the infinite expanse above. The air was thick with the hum of something ancient, something profound, and with each breath she felt herself drawn deeper into the night. The figure in the stars remained before her, its silhouette now unmistakable. It was no longer a shadow or a fleeting image, but a presence, a being, formed from the very light of the heavens. Its hand reached out, extending toward her, as though it had always been waiting for her to step forward. Her heart beat faster in her chest as she moved closer. The stars above her shimmered, casting long shadows across the land, and the wind around her swirled in quiet anticipation. She could feel the universe itself, stretching and pulling, as though it were holding its breath, waiting for her to answer the call. Elara. The voice, soft and eternal, echoed through the stillness of the night. It wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, and yet there was an urgency in it, a quiet pull that would not be ignored. She hesitated, standing at the edge of the clearing, unsure if her feet would carry her further. What was she meant to do? What had the stars been trying to tell her all this time? The questions swirled in her mind like the wind that danced through the trees. But then, as if in answer to her doubts, the figure in the stars began to shimmer, to pulse with light. It was not just a being of shadow anymore. It was becoming something more, a creature of both light and dark, both the seen and the unseen. Elara could feel the power radiating from it, the weight of its presence settling deep into her soul. Without another thought, she stepped forward once more, her breath a soft whisper in the quiet night. The world around her seemed to slow, and as her foot made contact with the earth once again, something shifted in the air. The stars above her seemed to draw closer, the constellations bending in ways that should have been impossible, forming shapes and patterns that spoke to her in a language older than time itself. She could hear the voice again, but this time it was not only in her ears, it was inside her very being, as though it were speaking directly to her heart. You are one of us, it whispered. You have always been. The words settled like a gentle wave over her, and for the first time, Elara understood. She had not been chosen by the stars. She had always been part of them. Her connection to the night sky had never been a mere fascination. It had been a bond, an ancient link that had shaped her very existence. The The stars were not distant and cold. They were part of her, just as she was part of them. She looked up, her gaze fixed on the figure now standing before her in the vastness of the sky. The figure's form seemed to shimmer and change with each breath she took, its shape fluid, as though it were composed of light and shadow, woven together in perfect harmony. Elara, you have always belonged, the voice murmured, a warmth in its tone that filled her chest. We have called you home. With a steady breath, she reached out, her fingers brushing the edge of the ethereal form before her. The moment her skin made contact, a rush of energy surged through her, a torrent of light and darkness swirling around her. She could feel the stars, the entire cosmos, flooding into her. Her senses expanded, and she saw not just the stars, but the vast web that connected everything. The galaxies, the nebula, the far-flung planets, all of it. It was as though her very being was now woven into the fabric of the universe itself. The sensation was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. She could feel the history of the stars, their birth, their death, their stories, and she could feel her own story intertwined with theirs. In that moment, she understood everything and nothing all at once. She was both a part of this ancient dance and an observer, watching from a distance, caught between two worlds. The figure before her smiled, though there was no mouth to speak of. It was a smile that reached deep into her soul, as if it knew her better than she knew herself. She had come here to find answers, but now she realized the truth. The answers were not to be found in the stars alone. They were inside her. They had always been inside her. As the light from the stars wrapped around her, she felt a deep peace, a quiet calm that settled over her like a warm embrace. The uncertainty that had plagued her for so long, the questions that had kept her awake at night, all faded into the vastness of the universe. She was no longer just an astronomer, peering through a telescope, searching for answers. She was a part of something much greater, a part of the very fabric of the cosmos. The stars, the sky, the figure, all of it was home. She was home. The figure in the stars began to fade, slowly, like the last lingering moments of a dream. But as it disappeared into the night, Elara felt no fear, no sadness. It had not left her. It had simply become a part of her, woven into her very essence. With a final soft breath, she turned toward her telescope, her heart full. The sky above her was now as familiar as her own skin, as if she had always known its secrets, its mysteries. She could feel the pulse of the universe beneath her feet, and she knew, deep in her soul, that she was exactly where she was meant to be. And as the stars twinkled gently above her, Elara closed her eyes, feeling a deep sense of contentment wash over her. The world was still, peaceful. She was one with the night, and the night was one with her. Good night, Elara. Sweet dreams.